Good evening. It's a big honor and special pleasure to speak after an amazing lineup. I watched that jump live. I was one of those people jumping. I have a big love for Slovenia, so it's a special honor to be next to such amazing speakers. We had an amazing dinner recently with Janez in a place where you will see in the picture just in a few seconds ago, and it's an honor to meet Your Excellency. Really, really great company. I was asked to speak about talent in a sense of innovation, kind of what's the future holds for us. And I asked myself, what is the one talent that I hope we all have a chance to cultivate in the years to come? What is one talent that is asked from me the most today? And I truly believe that one talent that is missing in most of our businesses, in our careers, in our lives, is the talent of reinvention. And this is the message for today that I would like to deliver for you. My own history with reinvention, and most of my talent was developed here. This is a picture of a typical Soviet line in a store, and this is a picture of my childhood. Most of what I remember from my childhood looked like this. I was born and raised in Soviet Union at the time where the country was going through extreme collapse. The food was really severely short. My husband is here today, and we still joke from time to time, what could they buy in their part of the country? Did they have butter? Because we really didn't have butter, and how hard it was to hunt mayo. And to get hot dogs, that's like once in 2 months opportunity. And the country was portioning food, which means that when you're standing in line, it's not that you're guaranteed to buy anything, but if you get to the front of the line and there's still some hot dogs left, you usually allowed half kilo or a kilo per person. So my mom, being the talented homemaker that she was, would bring all of us to stand in line with her so we can get 4 portions instead of 1. And most of my talent was developed standing like that. Now, when I think about the biggest breakthrough in my life, I truly am extremely thankful to be born in Soviet Union, because the biggest breakthrough came at the time of collapse. Here I am, I'm very young, I'm coming of age, exciting time, and 3 people come together in a private location in Belarus and sign an agreement deciding that the country doesn't exist anymore. And there was no discussion, there was no warning, there was no referendum, there was no, we didn't see it coming. We literally didn't see it coming. So my country, Kazakhstan, took 2 years to develop its own currency. It was so unprepared. And for 2 years, we lived on a borrowed currency. And the whole experience of that kind of collapse really forced me to think what's real and what's not. Because you think that government is real, or currency is real, money is real, laws are real, or even the value system is real. And you wake up one day and that doesn't exist anymore. So it's a very, very honest conversation with yourself. What is real and what is not? And for me, it was beautiful, it was opening up, it was exciting, it was reinvention at its best. But for most people in our country, this was not a beautiful story. And a huge number of people committed suicide because they simply could not bring themselves to reinvent themselves. It was just too much. They were not ready to let go, they were not ready to reinvent, and they were really physically not able to go through that experience. It is a story with a beautiful ending, so this is Kazakhstan today. I spent a lot of my days in that building, and we had dinner in the building behind rather recently. So it is a beautiful ending, a nice kind of happy ending to a story, but I feel like I'm living through a sort of deja vu with the whole suicide story, because today the suicide is happening in the field of business. In essence, what I see is that more and more companies are refusing to reinvent themselves and therefore committing suicide. And no other companies are most known in this area. The companies that really refuse to let go are these 2, which is Kodak and Nokia. Now, Kodak went bankrupt. Nokia didn't go bankrupt. It sold its telecom business to avoid bankruptcy. But in essence, what the stories are about is that companies that refuse to reinvent themselves, refuse to let go. And for me, when I show this picture and ask audiences, what do you think killed these companies? Many say, well, it's technology, of course, digital photography here, smartphones here. It would be wonderful if that was the answer. We need a little bit more of technology. The reality is Kodak was the one who invented digital technology, digital photography, and Nokia had a huge portfolio of smartphones at the time of its collapse. So it was not a technology. It was something else that was preventing these companies from surviving. And they are not a kind of rare occurrence. When I look at the statistics, for example, if you look at the original Fortune 500 list, 89% of those companies are gone. They either went bankrupt or they were bought, usually in a rather violent way, by other companies. So this is a standard. This is a norm. Not surviving in business, as Janez was just saying, is a norm. Most of us are refusing to reinvent, and therefore most of us are committing suicide. And if you're not coming from business, that is a very similar story also in nonprofits, in many, many towns that are collapsing, in many other sectors, educational institutions. Many of them are facing the same suicide rate, and the same in startups. Most startups don't survive as well. So what is that? If it's not technology, what is that that is not helping us, that is not allowing us to let go? What is that that is preventing us from reinvention? Many times you've seen this visual, I'm sure. What is reinvention in business is making sure that when you're growing and you're reaching the maturity, you start introducing a new life cycle and a new life cycle, a new life cycle. So we know the answer, what it means to reinvent, then why are we not doing it? When I recently, a few years ago, was asked to leave academia and join business full-time, this question was really haunting me because now I work in a mining company that is 75,000 strong, and I really need to understand reinvention daily and really figure out how to help my company reinvent. So I started looking at some statistics, and here's what I discovered. In most of 20th century, the average life cycle of a company took 75 years. From birth to death, 75 years. By the end of the 20th century, somewhere between the fall of Berlin Wall and the dot-com boom, that cycle shortened from 75 to 15. And just think about it. 75 means that we have 37 and a half years to the top and 37 and a half years to the bottom. That means that you can graduate from college, enter a company, work your whole life in the company, and then leave that company to retirement without ever seeing a reinvention in your life. That is where we come from. That's where all of the businesses come from. That's our mindset. The mindset is we have time. We have a long, long time to come, a long, long time to bottom. But that movement from 75 to 15 is not the final. Today, the number we are rapidly approaching on average across all industries is 7. 3.5 years to the top, 3.5 years to the bottom until your business model doesn't produce value anymore. That is the speed that we have never seen before. That is the reinvention requirement on our skin that we have never experienced before. And the problem is, when I think of the Nokia, that picture of the board was so beautiful because I can show you the picture of our board. I'm the only woman as well. And they all are they're very, very similar to that picture. So this is still a place where people who were born in 20th century, including myself, raised in 20th century, developed themselves in 20th century, are still living. And our mindset is still right there on the 75 years. The idea that we need to change everything every few years is just incomprehensible. But that is the most important talent that will help us either survive or die in the next few years. This is the future, and we do not see any evidence that it will slow down. If anything, if there is a kind of essence of the talent that will be required from us in the near future, is the talent of letting go of everything that doesn't serve us anymore, letting go of everything but our best, and allowing yourself to reinvent us again and again and again at the speed we've never seen happening before. Which leads me to a kind of essence of my message. If in the 20th century we could allow reinvention to the few chosen ones, the talented ones, the amazing ones, the rare ones, if that was okay because we had time, today we do not have time anymore. Reinvention must become a talent for each one of us. Reinvention must be built into the system, into the very DNA of how we make our decisions, how we think about our world. Imagine if our companies finally had chief reinvention officers on their boards. Imagine if our countries had reinvention ministers on their cabinets. Imagine if our schools taught reinvention from the very early childhood age. How many of you took reinvention in college? I haven't. I've never seen such a course. So it is a systemic issue, and it is a talent that must permeate the very, very DNA of our world. That would be my message, and thank you very much.